Hello and welcome to Middle East Matters, our weekly show with reports from across the region. Coming up today, in the wake of the huge, deadly attack in Karrada in Baghdad, we look at efforts to pay homage to the victims. There's outrage after Israel passes a law to highlight foreign funding for NGOs. And we follow the footsteps of one Palestinian athlete who's trying to make it to the Olympics. First, it was the deadliest bomb blast to hit Baghdad since the US-led invasion of Iraq in 2003. Nearly 300 people lost their lives in the attack on a shopping centre in Karrada. Iraqis held a vigil at the site on the Eid al-Fitr holiday, but some have been asking why this attack, claimed by the Islamic State group, wasn't more widely mourned. Mary Columbell has more.
Yet another attack in Baghdad. Now almost a daily occurrence. But on the 3rd of July, the Islamic State group killed hundreds. Nearly 300 people died, many of them children, and more than 250 people were injured. 3 days later, thousands of residents came back to the place where the car bomb exploded. They held a vigil in front of the destroyed buildings. Messages and photos of the victims were left by mourners. Scenes reminiscent of attacks in the Western world. But Iraqis say they only felt sympathy from within their borders. Many wonder why none of the emblematic monuments around the world took on the Iraqi colours. In London, a man wanted to give a face to the victims. Mustafa al-Najafi, an Iraqi living in Great Britain, railed against the media's lack of empathy. He published photos of the victims on his Twitter account just a few hours before celebrating Eid al-Fitr. He also published this video online. British TV station Channel 4 was one of the only media to relay it. One by one, it shows the victims' faces, a few lines to describe them, so that they are remembered as more than just numbers. Among them, Adel Euro, a young dancer who was about to get married, and Issa El Obaidi, a teenager who enjoyed football, his favourite team, Barcelona. Others, like Algerian cartoonist Dilem, emphasised how commonplace attacks in this region have become. He referred to the popular slogan that came out after the Paris attacks, a thought-provoking poster designed to shock and raise awareness of the many attacks that take place outside the Western world, so that they are remembered as more than just meaningless death tolls.
It was the first visit of its kind in nearly a decade. Egypt's Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry flew to Jerusalem this weekend to meet Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu. It's the latest sign of warming ties between Egypt and Israel. They've been cooperating militarily to crack down on Islamic State fighters in the Sinai Peninsula. But it also tells of a renewed push by Egypt to act as a broker in the Middle East peace process. Foreign Minister Shoukry met with Palestinian leaders at the end of June. Opponents say it's designed to silence human rights groups. Israel's parliament has passed a controversial law forcing NGOs, which receive most of their funding from foreign states, to declare so on TV, in newspapers and online. Named the Transparency Law, it will mainly affect left-wing NGOs campaigning for Palestinian rights rather than those which back the Israeli occupation. Haxi Myers-Belkin has more.
A crackdown on rights groups critical of the government, or simply a move to halt unwarranted foreign meddling in Israel's internal affairs. In Jerusalem, MPs voted in favour of a law that requires non-governmental organisations to declare all overseas donations if most of their funding comes from foreign governments or bodies. The woman behind the bill, Justice Secretary Ayelet Shaked.
In Israel in general, we are not interfering in other country or politics of other country, and I expect that countries will respect Israel and will try to influence on Israel in a diplomatic path, and not by funding millions of dollars or euros to NGOs that usually tries to promote their views.
The country's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has described the new law as democratic and necessary, but 48 members of the Knesset voted against it. For them, it's a brazen attempt to target groups that challenge the Israeli government's treatment of Palestinians, the NGOs most likely to receive cash from foreign governments and the EU.
This is a bill that is a very wrong bill, meant to chase specific NGOs that allegedly help to the left. It's not right. The right wing have a lot of NGOs that helping him. If we want to make a bill that will inspect NGOs, we should do it a general bill. We should work on it.
The law will apply to some 25 left-wing NGOs. Right-wing groups such as those supporting Israel's occupation of the West Bank tend to rely on private donations, not covered by this new legislation.
Now, shrugging off detractors who told her that girls belong in the kitchen, Mana Sarhan has carved out a career as Egypt's first female football pundit. She's been passionate about the sport since a young age and now commentates matches on television, a rare voice in a very much male-dominated field.
This is Manar Sarhan's day job. She works as a dentist at a medical center in Cairo. But as soon as she gets home from work every night, she indulges in her true passion, football. At 27, she's Egypt's first mainstream female football pundit.
To be a woman evolving in the field of football is a motivation to prove myself. If I were a man, people would take my opinion for granted. But because I'm a woman, I always have to stay one step ahead to show that I know everything there's to know about the sport.
Manar began freelancing in sports journalism in 2002, writing for an independent newspaper before she was picked up by satellite sports programs. She's now a commentator on the private CBC channel.
واحنا متعودين مع الفرق الايطاليه كده هنعرف
كويس يعني من بعيد كده نتيجه حلوه بس المشكله طريقه لعب اليوفي هتفضل كده في العوده يعني بوجبا لسه هيرجع ويلعبوا هجمات مرتده اكتر من دلوقتي هيبقى عندهم خط الوسط بتاعهم اقوى من الماتش ده.
Rahim Fayek, an anchor at CBC, admits she's a rare sight in a field monopolized by men.
اولا غريبه بالنسبه لنا احنا هنا يمكن في مصر.
Egyptians find it strange that a woman knows so much about football, and it's not just shallow knowledge. She has information, data, analysis, and she follows all the breaking news.
Football is popular in Egypt, and Manar has proven herself an expert, especially on European clubs. Her mother remembers her childhood dream and her struggle.
She always wanted to play football, but there was no suitable environment for girls to play football in Egypt. We were ready to travel anywhere, but there was just no suitable environment.
Manar's dream now goes beyond Egyptian borders. A loyal Real Madrid fan, she hopes to go international and head to Spain one day, so she can devote herself fully to her lifelong passion.
Staying with sports-related matters now, and to an athlete who started his bid for Olympic glory on a school running track in the West Bank. But a lack of resources could have meant the Games were out of reach. Instead, athlete Mohammed Al-Khatib won crowdfunding to go and train in the US and try to get up to speed. Our correspondents report.
Sit. Go! That's it.
Under the exhausting heat of Texas, Mohammed Al-Khatib is training to make his dream come true, win the first Olympic medal for Palestine.
And go.
The 26-year-old Palestinian is hoping to compete in the 100-meter track and field event at the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro.
The occupation is not going to get to our minds. And once our minds are free, the physical world is going to be free for sure. But we have to free our minds. And this is, for me, is like a step of breaking the chain that the occupation put in our minds.
Ready? High knees. Stay with it. Don't pass the hand.
Mohammed's coach is legendary athlete Bill Collins, who holds 2 world and 2 American sprint records.
What is Mohammed finding here that he can't find in Palestine?
Coaching, a track, blocks, spikes. None of this is in Palestine.
And to finance his training abroad, this yoga instructor from Ramallah collected more than 12,000 euros on a crowdfunding platform.
اسمي محمد الخطيب، أنا 25 سنة من مدينة الخليل في فلسطين. It's not just a
it's not just a one man's dream. It's like a vision for people. And this is what like for me gives me so much energy to keep going.
Mohammed's dream began 4 years ago and 10,000 kilometers from here, on this sports field at the University of Birzeit near Ramallah.
This is like his spot because he liked number 2 and he was always running in this track.
Ahmad and Mohammed were roommates at this campus, where he spent hundreds of hours supporting his friend.
One day he came to see me and told me, I want to achieve a master stroke. I want to run the 100 meters. I told him, okay, I will help you.
With rudimentary equipment and an asphalt track that is only 88 meters long, reaching success at an international level is almost impossible. And the same holds true for other Palestinian athletes of other sporting disciplines.
Our 5 athletes who qualified for the Olympic Games in Rio are all training abroad. The main reason is the occupation. The Israeli occupation puts restrictions on us, which prevents us from importing the necessary equipments to Palestine.
Back in Texas, Mohammed is racing in a local competition in order to obtain an official timing. He has to run 100 meters in 10.16 seconds in order to qualify, a feat that is difficult to achieve just a few weeks before the Olympics.
Maybe not this Olympics, but I'm aiming for Olympic medal, maybe 4 years after. But yeah, that passion for me is still firing in my heart and in my legs.
And whether he ends up qualifying or not, Mohammed has now gained the tools he needs to keep improving, a rare experience for a Palestinian athlete.
Finally, we'll take you to Beirut, where the first ever opera written and performed in Arabic debuted this weekend. Based on an epic poem, Anta and Abla, it tells the story of a warrior poet and former slave who falls in love with a princess. 160 musicians and a troupe of singers came together for this cultural first, which the creators hope to take on an international tour. We'll leave you with some of the opera now. See you next time on Middle East Matters.